Well, week one is in the books, and we're here for our bonus episode. Hopefully, now a weekly event to talk all about power rankings and how we rank them and teams moving up and down. But let's start off with again another feature. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football, which we haven't done in past years. So, yeah, I'm hosting these bonus. I'm Joe, and I'm joined by Byron. So, how you doing, Byron? Enjoy the first week, first Monday Night Football. Yeah, all in the books.
Yeah, real good end to the week as well. Started out like, oh boy, Ben Johnson's will hit the ground running. Caleb Williams is the next great quarterback in the NFL. Oh boy, Kevin O'Connell doesn't look great without Sam Darnold. Maybe it was all a big mistake. And then the second half happened, and not such a big mistake. Everything's fine. JJ McCarthy's the next coming of Jesus. Caleb Williams is yet another bum Chicago quarterback. Yeah, it was right for overreaction last night. I don't know how much you're on Twitter or Blue Sky, but at halftime it was everyone get your JJ McCarthy jokes out. He's a bum, he's a fraud. What is Kevin O'Connell doing? And by full time, it's Caleb Williams is a joke. Chicago don't have a leader. Ben Johnson, made by Dan Count and all the rest of it. It was kind of hard doing the power rankings, like because I started mine during the game, and I was like, I don't know where to put the Vikings or the Bears just yet. Because I was really high on the Vikings coming into the season. And at halftime, I was like, oh, that's not looking so good. I wasn't very high on the Bears. None of us were. I think we had the Bears, 20th combined last week.
16th last.
16, sorry. Yeah, I think we had the Cowboys at 20, which was in my head. But, yeah, with how good Chicago looked in that first half, Caleb Williams completed his first 10 passes, I believe. And everything was just running smoothly. DeAndre Swift was looking good. And I was like, I can't put the Bears above the Vikings with how strong I felt in the preseason, but I'm going to feel a bit silly if this game ends up being, 31-10. And then as the second half got going, started to see Chicago coming back to being the Bears. And I actually messaged you guys. I put on a little bet on the Vikings to win the game at 5-1 because I just thought the Bears are going to Bears this up. And, it was a nice little bet because the Bears did Bears it up. They let the Vikings come back into it. And, yeah, I think the biggest number probably of the game was... not any of the quarterback numbers, not really any of the running back wide receivers. It was a 12-127. Chicago doubled up on penalty yardage to the Vikings. They looked ill. Some of them were a little ticky-tacky, but I mean, the Vikings gave up 850 themselves, but the Bears just didn't look like a well-coached team for certainly the second half, part of the first half as well, but especially that second half. And that's going to sink you in these close games. And so it led to be.
Yeah, I feel like the Bears came on top of the scripted, Ben Johnson scripting this offense. It wasn't like a crazy offense. It was just Caleb Williams was taking what was there. Obviously, he had a great throw to Adunze on the right sideline, which was a great throw. And like I said, you feel like, oh, okay, we can see this. Everyone's been praising Ben Johnson. It's actually coming to a position. It's coming about. The Vikings weren't looking great. Like, it just felt off. And then, it felt like, well, KOC, I'll put it in here in the headline, he's the king of the castle of young offensive minds in the NFC North, maybe even in the NFC right now. Adjusting, and same for the defense as well. It felt like they adjusted better to what Caleb Williams and the Bears were doing. And I thought the Bears defense played well. Dennis Allen's first defensive performance. I think he's going to be a great defensive coordinator for them. Obviously, not quite in the fourth quarter, but yeah, I thought the Vikings played well. Obviously, the touchdown at the end makes this look a lot closer. I think obviously the first half being 10-6, if the Vikings getting that crucial 3 points right at the end, just to make it a lot closer. And yeah, I'm the same with you. It's take central that JJ McCarthy, what they're doing, should have got Sam Darnold, but then suddenly I see everyone saying, "Oh, the Vikings are sold for the next 10 years because JJ McCarthy is the next top 5 quarterback," and it's just like, well. He did only throw for 143 yards, 13 of 20. It's like, maybe calm down. He had the interception. He looked like the rookie.
Yes, he did,
year. But when he started, he looked like a rookie, and he felt like he didn't have that confidence, but he did. You got give him the praise at the end. That fourth quarter, he felt like he wasn't overthinking. He felt the first half he was overthinking. It wasn't quite. Things weren't like everything was disjointed. and it just the speed of the game, it just wasn't on top of it. And yeah, saw some people were saying like, oh, it looks a bit like Zach Wilson here, that kind of quarterback where he just worry for that. You know, some quarterbacks just don't make it in this league coming out from college. But the fourth quarter, he showed what he's made of, taking chances. And yeah, I think it was well deserved by the end. It felt like the Bears shrunk a little bit. And yeah, see where they go from here. I think similar to you, it's hard to rank them. I would also be surprised. I think the next week he sets up for the game, which we will be getting our special guest Fletcher becoming the Lions fan. Lions, because the Bears and the Lions both 0-1.
Yeah.
In the division as well, it sets up for a huge game for both teams, especially with the Lions have got the Ravens the week after.
That's right.
And the Bears have got the Cowboys, which we'll talk about power ranking where come into the season with lots of hope and suddenly be 0-2, 0-3. It's squeaky bum time. So I see where they go. I thought the offensive line started well, but like you said, there's some ill discipline, a lot of false starts.
Yeah.
I was always worried about Jonah Jackson because I don't think he had a greatest year last year. But I think this is a let's see and wait for both of these teams. It's a very I want to know what they're like in week 4 or 5. I'm not going to get too carried away. But
I think that
go on, you go ahead, Bob.
That week 4 number I think is huge as well for the Vikings because the Bears I think were pretty full strength. The Vikings, Christian Darrisaw was a late inactive at left tackle, one of the I wouldn't say the best, but one of the top 10 left tackles in the league. And Jordan Addison comes back in 2 weeks, after the week 3 game. So if the Vikings can, they've got the Falcons coming up, then the Bengals, 2 home games before they head out to Europe to play in Ireland and then London. It's not unfathomable they go up there 3-0. The Falcons at home, potentially without Drake London, that's a huge ask for the Falcons to win there, I think. And then the Bengals, you never know what you're going to get with the Bengals. What was it, 7 or 8 yards on offense in the second half against the Browns last week. Very lucky to have come away with the win. Again, going into Minnesota, no easy ask. Minnesota are really well rounded, and presumably they'll have Darrisaw back for the Falcons game because he was close to playing yesterday. I think that turf at Soldier Field might have been an impact as well. They've had 5 concerts in back-to-back weeks before the season, and you could see them. I don't know if it was shown on ESPN before the game, but they were filling in holes with sand and stuff. It was not quite NFL standard, I would dare say. And I can understand if you've got a franchise left tackle, you don't quite want to put him on that surface, and they're coming through it with a win anyway. So yeah, I think wheels up for the Vikings more than the Bears because they get 2 of their best offensive players back in the coming weeks and a strong start already.
Yeah, and I think my final point is that the Vikings look a team who have won a lot the last few years, and we've Kevin McCall. I think he is definitely top 5 head coach for me. Mm-hmm. I think he's one of the head coaches who does make a huge difference. He is starting to become the QB whisperer. Obviously, if JJ McCarthy plays how he did in the 4th quarter going forward, he definitely deserves that title, and he could be in the top 3, maybe even the best head coach around. So I think they looked a team who knew how to win when it got tough. The Bears were the complete opposite, where I've even put the Bears are still the Bears, where it felt like it wasn't comfortable at halftime being 10-6, but they were 17-6 with that interception.
Yep.
But they only scored 17 in offense. The 7 was right at the end, so 10 points throughout the three quarters. And I'm not going to give them the interception for the offense. So they're just a team who didn't know how to win. They haven't got their place. Just when there's the small margins of error, or that's where that's where these games win and lost to the Vikings. Just one of them teams where might be sat here at the end of the season the Vikings have won 11-12 games again with a technically like a rookie QB, which I know you've got the Vikings to win the division. So that's Monday Night Football, first Monday Night Football of the season. So let's move on to our power rankings. So just clicking all the buttons. First power rankings, week 2. And I'll just run through the top 8. So we've got the Bills moving up 2 spots to number 1. Eagles staying at number 2. Ravens swapping with the Bills going down to number 3. The Packers climbing to number 4, up 4 spots. The Chargers making a big leap, going up 6 spots at 5. The Vikings staying up at 6. The Rams down 1. And the Chiefs down 4. So let's just start with the number 1 team, with the Bills. This was tricky because the Bills are still. I still see a lot of weaknesses. I feel like if it continued how the Ravens were in that game, winning by 50 points, I would be like, "There's a clear number one."
Yeah.
I think the Eagles are slowly a second, and then there's the rest. But now with what happened, me and you had the Bills number one. Paul had the number two, and he kept the Eagles at number one on his list. Yeah, what put the Bills to number one over the Eagles to leapfrog them compared to other teams?
Yeah, I think ultimately getting it done, as kind of cliche as that might be, I found it really hard, the top three, to separate them truthfully. I think you kind of put a net over them because I completely agree. If the Ravens had ended up winning by 15, I think it might be 1 and 2 and being like, okay, so the Bills are close to the Packers and the Chargers and they are to the Ravens. But, the game didn't play out like that. And it's not luck. Josh Allen is MVP. And they don't, cake the bed when the biggest moments come along. Like Baltimore seemed to on a far too regular basis. So it was really tough trying to decide between them. And the Eagles just look so uninspiring against the Cowboys. And I kept trying to toy with it in my head of they didn't have Jalen Carter, but the offense didn't look fluid. I know Jalen Hurts got his touchdowns, but the wide receivers were barely featured and didn't look especially good. Barkley was fine enough, but again, didn't look like Saquon Barkley of last year by any means. So it's just really tough to draw that. And you think, okay, it's a big one this week for the Eagles. They play the Chiefs with Jalen Carter back. He got the word today that he was suspended again, but they're treating it as time served because he, missed the entire Cowboys game, which I think is actually fair enough. I've seen some complaining on the internet, but I think that is fair to treat it as a game served. He missed the entire game. He didn't take a snap. I'm pretty sure he wasn't out on special teams for the actual play. So I'm fair enough with that being a time served penalty. I mean, spitting is nasty, but it's never been a suspension before in the NFL. So I kind of find it hard to say like, he should be suspended multiple games, as unpleasant as it might be. And then, the Ravens are just, to me, they're still the best franchise, like, top to bottom, best roster in football, but you can't keep throwing games away and be treated like it. So, that's ultimately why I had the Bills top. They got it done against the best team in football, and they got it done. Like, that's ultimately how it came out.
No, yeah, definitely. I think I'm agree. That Ravens defense, obviously, pooped the bed a bit, but it feels like we said in the review, there's certain teams, certain quarterbacks where it feels like no one can stop them.
Yeah.
And it felt like that was the case. So I agree. I was curious if anyone would drop them further. So Paul had them at 4. You actually had the Packers at 3, going up by 4 spots. Yeah. They're like a kind of team we said in during the preview at the NFC North that the biggest wild card. I think that's why I had them at, but that was before Parsons. So hopefully there's not massive trades after we've recorded this before we release it. So we have to quickly change it on the fly. But they move a 4 spots. I'll give you a shout on the Chargers because you were saying beforehand you had them at 5. We all had them at 5, which you were surprised at. You've got them above the Vikings, going above the Rams. Yeah. Do you think it's a fair spot, that 5th spot now? So they're 3rd in the AFC in the power rankings.
Yeah, my biggest surprise was because I know I get beaten over the head with it every single year because I do it every single year. It's like I fall in love with the Chargers, and especially now that the Cowboys with Jimmy at the helm. And I just thought, once we got the first 3, like I put my team at 32, put my team at 1, done my top 3, and I was like, okay, I don't really know who to go for 4, 5, 6, etc. I thought the Packers deserve 4. They were incredible against the Lions, who we think are a strong opponent. And I couldn't think who else had as maybe not dominant, but as a big of a win in week 1 against like an opponent that we respect. And I already had the Chargers at 7. I think they're a really well-rounded team. So I was more surprised that everyone came up 2-5 with me than I was at me having them at 5, I guess. Again, I just think they were so impressive against the Chiefs. I think they should now be division favourites. I don't know if the bookies have aligned with that just yet, but I just think they've got so much more going for them than the Chiefs do. Joe Alt didn't give up a single pressure in his left tackle debut this week, so I think that'll probably be the last time we see Joe Alt play right tackle because I think that's his slot now to lose. And I just think the sky's the limit for them. They can certainly go ahead and maybe not challenge the Bills for the amount of wins because they're in a much tougher division. But I think they'll be looking at going to the conference championship as their, end of season potential.
Yeah, I think it was a great GM who the 5-year draft drafted Joel as his left tackle, just knowing they would slide across the back there. Yeah, I Shags to 13 before the season, so obviously that's a big move up for me. But that's 8 spots. I think I underestimated how good they were going to look and how much they actually trusted Justin Herbert. Obviously, that defense was the best scoring defense last year. It's always up and down defense, but they look great against the Chiefs. So if they continue that, and they had a couple of injuries, but yeah, I think they'll continue. And I'm going to chuck a segment in on the fly. The team which has dropped, biggest bounce back, that's what I'm going to call it, biggest bounce back, who's dropped quite a few spots, who I think will bounce back. And we can do vice versa as well. I'm going to say the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have dropped 4 spots down to 8th. I've got them at 9. Obviously, it was a disappointing opening game in Brazil. But if they beat the Eagles this week, which, I'm probably I'm going to lean the Eagles, but it's the Chiefs. I can see the Chiefs, beating the Eagles this weekend, and that'll bump them back up to, 3, 4, 5 spots. So, it's my biggest bounce back. So, and I've just chucked that on your bar, so just have a think while we're going through some of the games. So we'll head to the next 8, so 9 to 16. So we've got the there's not much movement, which I was surprised at. So we've got the Bucks staying at 9, the Commanders staying at 10, the Lions dropping all the way down to 11-6, so that they moved down 6 spots. The Broncos staying at 12, the Bengals staying at 13, the Niners staying at 14, the Jags moving up 4, and the Texans moving down 1 to 16. So I think the biggest is the Jags. So you had the Jags. You had about 14, so they've only gone up 2 spots. But yeah, yours and Paul's assessment of the Jags is fairly wide. Paul has them all the way down to 20. You have them at 12. Since Paul's not here, I'll give you the floor to say why Paul's wrong and you're right.
Yeah, I'd love to hear his view, to be fair, because I don't quite know how you have. We'll get to some of the teams he's got them behind, but I'm a bit perplexed, truthfully. I mean, he's still got them behind the Texans, for one, who are on this screen here. I mean, the Jags just came in, and the Panthers aren't necessarily a good opponent, but they absolutely battered them. They completely took care of business. It was an easy opening day for them. They were only 3.5-point favorites. It's not like Vegas had it as an 11-point game or anything crazy. I'm not sure what more the Jags needed to do to. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't move up at all, but to have them still 20th in the bottom half of the league, I find. I don't know. I just find it a bit weird, truthfully. I think they should be favorites for that division. I gave that a shout out on the show yesterday. You can still get them at plus 200, 2-1 to win the division. That's just actually, I'll just check now. Actually, my DraftKings is in American, so it's plus 185. They're actually tied with the Texans now. So maybe people got to listen this morning and decided to back that, which I think would be a smart decision. I've done it myself. So yeah, I think the Jags look really. The biggest issue, I think, is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas Jr. had the most uncatchable balls percentage-wise in the league this week, which isn't a great start because Brian Thomas is incredibly special, but you figure they're going to get that sorted out. That probably won't continue, or Trevor Lawrence will be looking for a job if he does, because I trust Liam Cohen and I trust Brian Thomas a lot more than I trust Trevor Lawrence, because they both had a better repertoire so far. Yeah, I mean, I could make an argument for some of the teams that the Jags are behind, to keep the Jags behind them there, that I have at 12. So like the Broncos, the Bengals, I can understand a bit of movement there, but 20 I just think is almost disrespectfully low. I'm not sure what else.
Yeah, they're behind the Bears and Falcons, so that's what I was surprised at. So I had Jags at 23 last year, so I had them the lowest, even though I had them winning the division. It was a very much of show me what you can do, because there's been too many times where we've got into a new season being like, Trevor Lawrence, this is his year, he's going to be and obviously having Liam Cohen coming in, who I was excited for, but again, I need to see it with some of these teams. You know, that defense, it had a good front, but we've said that about Saxonville quite a lot, where you think, oh, this team's ready to like step up, and then we're talking about them, oh, they didn't make the playoffs, they missed it out about a game or two. So I was really impressed. You only can beat what's in front of you. The Panthers did drop quite a bit, which we'll get to. So yeah, I think they deserve to move on, and I think that 15th spot is fine. I think they're very close to the Texans. I think it is, back and forth between who's going to win that division. I think the teams above them, even though, the 3 teams above them all won, it was like tight wins, but I just feel like they have like the history of experience. And again, it's being so early, week 1, it can the Saints went 2-0 last year and look how they ended up. So we'll have to see how it goes. I don't know if there's anyone else. Obviously, the Lions took a big drop, but we did chat about that in the reviews. Is there anyone here who you were surprised where any of us have gone or have not moved at all? I can shout one out if you haven't.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say like the Commanders. So I had the Commanders fairly high the first week. I had them 6. So they've dropped 1 spot. But I was actually really impressed with them against the Giants. I don't think they did anything wrong. I thought their defense played a lot better than I expected. Obviously, it's a huge game against the Pack. Well, huge game. It's only week 2, but I think it's showing how the NFC can shape up on Thursday Night Football, where these 2 teams are. I think it's a good barometer. Obviously, the Packers beating the Lions. You sometimes think that probably gearing up for that game so much. Is this going to be like a big letdown game? Because that happens all the time. The big bull is the NFC North champ, and they got the Commanders. Who it'll be surprised if they win, but could it be a letdown? So I was just surprised that you had them at 11, like behind the Lions, behind the Bucks, where I was pretty impressed with them at Sunday night. Just they haven't dropped down in estimation. It was just that teams have gone up. So like the Packers, I think, overtook them in my mind. So I don't know how you feel about the Commanders as how they've gone going into week 2 on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I did move them up a little after the Giants game. I think I just moved them up 1 spot or 2 though. And again, it was mainly just the Lions is a good shout because I think if they played this week, I'd really struggle to pick a game. But I mean, I do have them back to back, so that kind of makes sense. I was just a little more impressed. Like I thought the Bucks with no Tristan Wirfs were better than I expected against the Falcons. I thought the Falcons would win that game. And then again, it was kind of a toy. Like I've got the Chiefs ahead of the Commanders, and if that game took place this week as well, like I wouldn't be stunned if the Commanders won. If it was in the Commanders building, I'd probably pick the Commanders. But a lot of it, truthfully, is a bit maybe out of Giants' disrespect. I just wanted the scoreline was very clear, but it just felt like almost like the Commanders were playing with the food a little bit in that game. Like I wanted to see them like with how poor I thought the Giants played. I just wanted to see them like put the stink on them and like really put them out of misery. And it just felt like one of them England 2-0 Andorra games where it was comfortable all along, but like I didn't feel I learned much from it. I didn't feel like I got much about the Commanders. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt looked pretty good. Got his touchdown, obviously, but I thought he looked good running the ball. But yeah, I didn't think I learned much from it. I don't think Washington were really tested enough to push them any higher. I could certainly see that changing this week, though, if they give the Green Bay Packers a really good game, which I think they definitely could.
Yeah, so we'll move it to the next step. I'll just do quickly touch on the Jags. I'm curious the next because their schedule is hard at the beginning. They've got the Bengals, then Texans, then at Niners, Chiefs, Seahawks, Rams, Raiders. So if they're a serious contender, let's see it. These are the first. I think it obviously softens up near the end, but what I don't want is them getting blown out these weeks and then just beat the cupcakes at the end and someone squeeze into the playoffs because it's going to be a 1-0. So let's move on to the next A. So this is always the tricky spot where it's just like these teams can be good, but right now we just got no confidence whatsoever. So we've got Bears slip down 1 to 17th. The Cowboys move up 3 to 18. The Steelers move up 1 to 19. The Falcons drop 2 to 20. The Seahawks drop 4 to 21. The Colts are the biggest risers this week, moving up 7. They've gone to 22. The Jets, which I was surprised at, we'll get into that, move up 3 spots to 23. And the Raiders stay where they are at 24. Where do you want to start first? But obviously, I'll talk about the Jets in a little bit, but I don't know if there's a team. Let's go to Steelers. So you've got Steelers 22. Paul's gone 16. I've gone 17. So right in the middle at 19 on our list. 22 for the Steelers after a hard-fought victory against the Jets.
Yeah, ultimately, I'll just come out of it with more concerns about the defense, and I was impressed with their offense. It feels like that offensive performance, I don't think, is overly repeatable because it was so much yak. It was just kind of dink and dunk Rodgers and people running after the catch, which is great, but I just don't see it being repeatable week to week. is kind of my takeaway. But their inability to stop the run, I felt, was very concerning. Their inability to get pressure. I know Justin Fields, I know that O-line is, well, the O-line is good, and I know Justin Fields is kind of, can be tough to bring down when he's rolling right. But yeah, for how much he's invested in that defense, I just did not like what I saw at all. I could certainly see an argument for putting them above like a team like the Cowboys, the Falcons, the Seahawks, etc. But yeah, the Seahawks one especially, I am struggling with. I was just more impressed by what I've seen from, especially the Colts over them this week. I think the Cowboys battled way better than I expected. And the Steelers, like I say, I know they did win, and it feels a bit harsh. And I wonder if I'm just holding on to priors a little bit. But that defense, if that's what's going to hold this team together all season, because I do not see this offense performance repeating. I think that's going to be the highest offensive output of the season. I'm not going to say significantly, but I don't think they're putting up many more 30-point games. I just don't see it. I don't think Rodgers is. I just don't think he has it in him anymore. I'm stunned they got 34 points this week. It felt like a bit of a fluke, and I mentioned this on the show. And yeah, I don't know who they have this coming week. Let me have a quick look.
Seahawks, which will be a fun one. Again, another big game.
That is a good one, yeah.
Week 2. Very close to the power rankings. Yeah, actually, so the Seahawks, dropping 4. I dropped him 2 spots. I think it was just the offensive output was disappointing. I'm curious if by in 4 or 5 weeks we sat here being like, oh, actually the Seahawks defense are actually really, really good. And I think it's a big test to see. I think for both and for them and the Steelers, like you said, can Rodgers repeat that again against what I think is a really good defense for the Seahawks, and vice versa. If the Jets have done it, if they can run all over, Seahawks, this is supposed to be what your season is about winning over teams and, JSN having big games. So I think it's a big game for both of them. My Jets thing, I was surprised. I think this is, Paul having a 21 and, they lost at the end of the day. I think there is such thing as moral victories. But when, I'm just going to shout out Paul here. He's got the Raiders below them. He's got the Colts below them. The Cardinals will get onto as well, who all won. And the Jets lost. And I know he was close against the Steelers. Maybe because he's got the Steelers at 16 and he loves that. I just think, them moving up, I can see them being the team that drop back down to where they were because they've got the Bills this week. So if they take a hammering, which they have done against the Bills, that's probably my bounce down kind of team where I can see them doing this week and they drop down 3 or 4 spots again just because they have to prove against the Bills. I know you can do it against the Steelers, but you got to at least make it competitive because if they don't make it competitive, then it's a bit like it's just week 1, just a bit of a show.
And you're 0-2 at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anyone you want to touch on, like the Raiders not moving up after? I thought it was an impressive victory against. I know I didn't get much higher, but impressive victory against the Patriots. Or you want to talk about the Cowboys moving up 3 spots?
I was going to mention the Seahawks as well. Sorry,
go for it. Yeah,
I was kind of stunned seeing the stats after the game. They were the only team in the NFL to not use motion and play action on a single play this week. And when Clint Kubiak was shining at the start of last season, I remember, I'm sure I was doing your and Paul's heads in by just saying like the word motion over and over again about the Saints with Rashid Shaheed, Kamara, Olave, whoever else it was in that backfield in motion before the snap, and then working with play action. Derek Carr statistically looking great. And then it feels like this offense is built for it. Play action and hit JSN. Play action and run Kenneth Walker, run Charbonnet behind Gray's Able. And there just wasn't any of it against the 49ers. And Mike McDonald was asked about it. And he didn't have much of an answer. He was like, when the time to call it is there, we'll call it and we'll execute it. And I was like, well, I mean, you're not going to throw your OC under the bus after week 1. But, I mean, that was a game that was there for the taking against the Niners. And I've been critical of the Seahawks all offseason. Like, I don't understand what the team build is. And, I mean, I still have them at 20. And this game against Steelers, I think, is a huge one for both teams, really. But especially for Seattle, because I don't want to say they threw it away against the Niners, but in a big division game where that division could get away from them easily if it was a slow start, I just felt like the play calling was so poor. Darnold didn't try and hit anybody that wasn't called JSN, which, I mean, I can kind of understand, but again, it speaks to your team building. Like, why do you not have anybody that other than Jackson Smith and Jigba who can catch the ball? I didn't like the running back rotation, obviously. I think if you don't trust Kenneth Walker to be fit for the game, or you just don't trust him, just run with Zach Charbonnet all the time. Then, like, I'd hate the in out. I don't think it works well 99% of the time, and I just don't quite know what their plan is week to week. But yeah, the offensive scheming I just found kind of inexcusable for the Seahawks. So I could probably drop them further, and it wouldn't surprise me if this time next week I have them even lower if they don't get that run game going and that play action game going against the Steelers, because I think the Steelers are definitely beatable. We're just seeing it with the Jets. The Jets have a better O-line, but, you know, Seahawks have improved their O-line, and the entire point of Clint Kubiak is meant to get the best out of a less than advantageous offensive line. So I think that's a big one. And I think we just need to give a shout out to the Colts. Big game this week. I think they're hosting Denver, actually, not heading into Denver. They're hosting Denver, and that's going to be a much tougher proposition than Miami were. They've got up 7 spots here. I've got them the highest at 21. I couldn't put them too much higher because I still think they have a lot of limitations and they're not going to play the Dolphins every week, but they were really impressive on offense. I know they were helped a lot by Tua and Miami being very poor on offense. So they got like good territory, getting the ball in good positions, but they executed really well, scored on every drive. We'll see what comes next week, but yeah, just a really positive start for Indianapolis. And I certainly have shit on them an awful lot throughout the offseason and through the years we've been doing the podcast. So any chance to give them a shout of some kind of flowers, I think it's overdue.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious just with your Seahawks. I think Kubiak's that kind of offensive coordinator where he gets all the big hype but never delivers.
Yep, could well be.
We'll see what happens.
I know there was injuries after week 2 last year, but they really went in the, tank after week 2. I know there was injuries, but like it really went badly. So yeah, I've definitely got my eye on that one.
Yep. So let's do the last 8. So there was a little bit of, there's quite a bit of movement here. So we've got the Cardinals, even though they won, dropping down 2 spots to 25. We've got the Patriots dropping 4 to 26. The Giants up 1 to 27. The Titans up 2 to 28. The Browns up 2 to 29. The Panthers dropping 5 spots to 30. The Dolphins just behind them dropping 4 spots to 31. And, we got to continue the Saints here. Saints staying at 32. Do you want to... Let's go to the Patriots. I think the Patriots dropping 4 spots. I think there was a lot of hype going into this season. And I watched a bit of this game because I had the Patriots to win as a favorite. You had the Raiders as the underdog. I was very disappointed with this team on both sides of the ball. Dropping 4 spots. Yeah, I don't know what kind of year it is. I think I had them. I don't know if I had them sneaking to plus, but I was very close to putting them as a wild card kind of team. Yeah. And I know they've got like a fairly easy schedule, but they just like obviously they got in front of the Raiders at halftime, but they never felt comfortable like a solid team. Obviously, again, it's week 1. Things can change. Vrabel's just starting, but that defense felt like it folded a little bit against that Raiders team. And, some of the decisions by Mike Vrabel to punt with 4 minutes to go and be down 10, which is shocking. I don't care. It's just like sometimes it's just like if it's obvious for everyone, it should be obvious for you. And, Gino made a pair. You and Paul 25, I had 26. Is this a kind of team you can see bouncing back next week, or where do you see that they're landing going forward?
Well, they better hope they bounce back next week because they play Miami, who are 31 in our combined rankings. So, yeah, and I understand that, it's Mike Vrabel's first week, but the point is you hire Mike Vrabel because he's got the know-how, he's an experienced head coach, he's a winner, etc., etc. He knows the Patriots way. And, I was really disappointed with them. Like I said, I did pick them, the Raiders, to cover this week, so I shouldn't, I guess, be super stunned by it, but I just thought they were 2 close teams. I know it was only a 7-point game, but they kind of look like 2 very differently organized teams. The Raiders look like they kind of knew what they were doing. I thought Gino was lights out better than Drake May at quarterback position. I think Drake May, again, we've kind of been, I don't say sold a false promise on Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams, who I liked as a rookie pre-draft. But yeah, Keyshawn Boutte is your main man. I kind of like Keyshawn Boutte, but he shouldn't be your number 1 wide receiver. Like that's an issue. Hunter Henry got going a little, but yeah, Kyle Williams, I think, had 1 reception on 1 target. Travion Henderson, 5 carries, I think it was, to Ramondre's 7 or 8. Just never quite again, we see it in preseason and everyone gets all the rookie hype around players and just never got used that way. That's a bit of a Josh McDaniel throwback, though, is, rookies have to earn the stripes. But I think that's a lot easier to do. Ramondre went 7-15. That's not ever going to get it done. Trayvon was 5 for 27. I'm not saying he was lights out, but I mean, that's over 5 yards of carry. And he's a dynamic playmaker. I just didn't quite understand the rationale of feeding a inferior running back who's not getting anything done on the ground. So, yeah, I think the Patriots, huge week this week. First, just getting the culture set. I think, you don't want to, if you lose to this Miami team, I think you've got real problems ultimately. Yeah, we'll see with New England, but it's definitely not an encouraging opening.
Yeah, I'm just going to shout out for you guys a bit harsh on the Cardinals, dropping them. Both you dropped them a couple of spots, even the other one, and Kyler Murray was shitting himself the night before. I struggle to, if I've got diarrhea in the middle of the night, to think I need to go to the shop, not playing an NFL game. So I think it's a bit harsh dropping him that many points, still winning a game.
Do we know that's what happened? Are we sure he wasn't up playing Call of Duty?
Well, he was on like a live stream with this game, and he said, "Yeah, I woke up at 4 o'clock," and basically it was just all coming out of him. So so the fact that he got on the field to actually win a game, I'll give him props. So I had him at 22, sticking at 22. You guys dropped him a few. Guessing that's because against the Saints.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you want to touch on? The last teams to touch on?
The Panthers are woeful. Well, I mean, we've all dinged them appropriately, so I don't think there's much in the word of discussion there, but super, super disappointing. I'm only surprised that I'm the only person who had the Dolphins at 32. I know there's probably enough talent there to keep them higher, but I just almost couldn't believe what I was watching on Sunday with the Dolphins. Maybe they'll turn it around on the home game coming Sunday against New England, who are, not perfect, and they'll have better luck against that Patriots O-line, Dolphins pass rush you would expect, but yeah, the bottom two teams I think are kind of adrift here to me.
Yeah, I think I just had them at Dolphins 31, Saints 32. I think, like you said, they've still got them special talent players. I think the Saints have obviously got some really good players, but when they keep throwing hospital balls to Olave, he's not going to be on the field that long. For some reason, that's why they all keep doing that with Spencer Rattler. The defense showed a lot more, but let's see how they do on Sunday against the 49ers, and it could be a Mac Jones led 49ers. So if that's the case and they lose that, then they'll be sticking at 32. For me,
definitely a George Kittle-less 49ers.
Going on IR for 4 weeks, which we'll touch upon on that when we do the review we're coming out on Friday. So tune in on Friday. We'll be doing our week 2 review of all the games. As mentioned, a special guest is Fletch, talking about his Detroit Lions and their big game against the Bears on Sunday. Remember to subscribe on all the channels: Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky. All of them is on GTW_GTC. You'll find us anywhere. And thanks for joining us to our second Power Rankings episode. And we'll see you next week to talk all things ball.